Hello, everyone. It's Winslow. Thanks for joining Ark Hardcore. We're on day 2. I decided I'm going to merge a bunch of days together into probably long but acceptable, maybe outside of the algorithm's acceptability, acceptable durations. And I'm not going to script it. I'm just going to talk through it as we go. I've already recorded everything. I've already edited everything down. I didn't do any commentary while I was playing because I find that distracts me from actually playing. If I'm trying to do a specific thing, and a lot of what you get with Ark is exploring and going out and trying to find something to do. You can set a task for yourself for the day where, I want to harvest this much of that or whatever, or I'm trying to build this thing, so I need to get materials. So you can set goals for yourself, but things happen. You get distracted by shiny objects, by nice leveled tames that you're looking for, by alphas that you want to kill for experience, by drops. So I've been thinking for over the last week or so, what am I going to even fill up this time with about Ark while this video is going? And I've seen and watched a lot of videos where people just give literally a play-by-play as to what's going on. And I didn't really want to do that. I understand that that's probably really helpful in certain situations. Like if someone is just listening to it or what have you. But I decided I'm just gonna chat while we're going through this with nothing really in mind other than Ark. I'm back in Ark, and here's what we did. So, I started out the hardcore playthrough with some specific settings for the levels, the tame levels. I did it with the difficulty offset so that everything was wild level 1 to 30. I wanted to have kind of a more chill experience. And it was working out pretty good. I'm getting some pretty good level tames and got a little bit of a security force built up. It's the same basic process, and they are, because it's scaled, they are of equivalent strength to everything else in the world. But the problem being with that is they have a lower stat cap for their raw stat numbers, because of course they're lower level. Now with leveling and mutations and breeding and stuff, you can get higher levels, like with the regular level range, but they're still not quite the same. They're still ultimately weaker than what I'm used to, than what most people would be used to. So I did eventually, and you'll see that in some later days, I did eventually decide to change the level scaling for the wild dinos, and that meant that I got rid of all of the dinos that you'll see me getting. So don't grow attached, because they're hamburger. And some of my early goals, the things that I talk about and the things that I try to do early on in Ark, ultimately my goal is to survive because it's a survival game, right? The goal is to survive. So I always try to go as long as I can without dying. Depending on the maps, I have greater success than in some other situations. But I moved off the beach here to right across from the redwoods and above kind of the swampy area, which is where I typically build on the island. It's kind of my number one preferred spot. It's in a good location. It's close to water. It's close to the redwood trees, which are an excellent source of wood and thatch. The redwoods here, there's a cave, the bug poison cave, which is great for experience. It's just right across the water there. There's good taming in the redwoods. Argentavis and Carnos and Stego, Thylacoleo are there. If you can manage to get them off the trees and survive. And this specific spot here is a nice, relatively flat, relatively secure area. The worst things that pop up here is you will occasionally get Titanoboa come up from the swamp. They'll take the long way around. And you will very rarely get Dilos and Raptors that pop up. I have yet to see an alpha pop up right here, knock on wood. No Gigas will spawn here. Titanosaur is not an issue because I don't have the Titanosaur active on this map. Because I disabled them. Because there's no point to it. All it's going to do is piss me off with its screen stomping. So I have those gone. But what I like to do is set up just a shelter for storage here. And then start stockpiling supplies so I can start building out of stone. And I usually don't go beyond stone when I'm building. Most of my builds that I'll do, I won't go metal. And I rarely do anything with tech. I might put up some tech foundations in kind of like a vault or secure area. But stone's pretty much all you need. I also don't really like the way that metal looks. I really like Adobe, but Adobe you can't do on the island because there's no sand or cactus sap. So that's not really an option for you. So what I've done is, like I said, just start stockpiling. I did manage to get a very early on. I managed to get some polymer, organic polymer. I got a Hesperornis, and I was able to make 2 cryopods, which has been super helpful in taming because it lets you tame and pick it up. You know, pick up what you're taming and go home with it. And the build that I'm doing here is a ground level variation of Aaron Longstaff's treehouse build, and I'll put a link to his build in the cards. But it's just a circular tower type structure, 2 stories, nothing super fancy. Got some windows, so I did have to make a few trips for crystal. And it's just it's a combination of stone and wood. And it's typically what I will go for if I'm planning long term on a map. Because it's got enough space for all of your crafting inside, for your storage inside, for your fridges and your cryo fridges and even small tame breeding space. And with some of the higher level technology unlocks that you get, there's enough room for a fabricator and an industrial grinder and your chem station. And there's even enough room for the incubators for kind of later stage breeding and hopefully mutating. So, but you've got to get the basics set up. You got to get water. You got to eventually get power so that you can power your stations, and mostly so you can have air conditioners and fridges, because you need air conditioners for a lot of egg hatching. They're safer than using fires. And then fridges for storing pretty much everything that is a spoil timer on it. This place is close enough to the water. It takes about 45 to 50 of the flex pipes to reach the water, which is an acceptable, in my opinion, acceptable distance. There are a lot of places where it's a lot further away, and people rely on rain, and I don't like relying on that because I like having a garden, and I like cooking. I like cooking, a lot of the high-end stuff. I use custom recipes, so I'll make custom beverages that last longer than well, they can do extra stuff. They don't last longer than water. They'll still fill you up, but the beverages do have a spoil timer, but they will last longer on a map like Scorched Earth, where your water evaporates from your canteen or your water skin. They won't evaporate from the custom recipe, but stop being thirsty. It has a spoil timer. And then for my other custom recipes, I usually make cakes or burgers or something. I try to get to something with 100%, like 100 points in food, so that one item can fill me up, and then try to get some health regeneration on it. But you have to be careful with custom recipes because they will end up weighing quite a bit. So I kept doing the rounds. I spent many days splitting my time between building and getting those early tames. Spent some time over on Herbivore Island, which is nice and relaxing because there's no carnivores there. It's a good place to get your stegos or an Anki, but it's kind of a trek. And it was when I started realizing that there was an issue with the levels that I was having everything, because the Pteranodons and eventually the Argentavis that I got, they only ended up having like 100 or 200 stamina. So I kept having to land to regain stamina, which is super dangerous in a place like the Redwood because of Thylacoleos. They will knock you out of the air. That was one of the prime deciding factors in what went into me wanting to change the level, like the overall level range that I was going with. I'd played on some servers before that had the 1 to 30 level range, and there was no stat problems. There was no stat deficiencies whatsoever. So I have a feeling that they tweaked some stat affinities to kind of make it so Yeah, it's level 30, but it has the stat equivalent of a level 150, which is kind of pooey. So, I spent a lot of time going back and forth from the mountain on the redwood. I did eventually get some good Argentavis, and I killed a bunch first, though. The best way to get your high-level tames or high-level wild creatures, if you're not finding them, is just to start clearing out the low-level ones. Because then that can force respawn, and that will get the higher level ones to spawn in their place. If you're lucky. This was a good bird, though. And once you get an Argentavis, you can start going after other tames that you can pick up and put in a taming pen, like your Anki or your Dodec, or some carnivores. Like you can pick up I believe you can still pick up a Thylacoleo. Pick it up, you knock it out of the tree, pick it up with a bird, drop it in a pen, knock it out, it's safe, it's not going to be bothered while it's taming. I don't normally like to use pens though. It's very rare that I'll use pens for taming anymore. I prefer bolas and the net launcher, but on this playthrough I'm not going to have the net launcher yet because I'm not on Genesis. It's not available, and they still have never enabled those DLC engrams on the base map, which is frustrating. I would like to be able to have the incubator here, but I'm not going to be able to have it because it's a Genesis. It's a Genesis engram. So I'm either going to have to find a way to do it or just deal with it. Getting everything finalized and set up was pretty easy. It didn't really take that much time to get all of the tames that I needed to get. And then once I had something good for wood, like I had all of the Triceratops here that could carry lots of wood, and the Stego, which can harvest it. And then here I've got the Doedicurus that is going to be for my stone harvesting. You know, once you get those things, you can really start ramping up your production. Otherwise, you're doing it all by hand, and it's slow. It's slow, and you're constantly dying of thirst or dying of hunger because you're expending all of your stamina harvesting these trees and rocks. And that's very tiring for your character. So you run out of food and water. Oh, sleepy. Now this was a Derzino that I decided to just take out because they are aggressive, and I didn't want him messing up my tame, the Dodec that I knocked out. So I just opted to put myself in danger and take him out. He's not doing that much damage to me, which is nice because he was low level, but you know, they can still shred your armor and punch right through it with their claws. So you have to be careful with that. And then once I had the Doedicurus, you pick him up with an Argentavis and you go over to a rock that you can harvest, and he'll auto swing, get his own stone. Once he's at 50% of his carry weight, he'll stop swinging. And the only thing you really need to level with them is carry weight. They have great stats otherwise. And they have a weight reduction on stone. You can also use them on scorched earth for sand harvesting from the sandstone. They're really great for that, but they don't have the weight reduction for that. Building. And here, instead of trying to split my focus during the day between going out and searching for tames and building, I decided to just spend the next several days building and being thirsty. It was a really terrible placement for that tap. And you'll start to see it take shape. Unfortunately, the rain kind of interferes with that, but it's that, if you've ever played Ark, it's that back and forth process. Harvest until your boxes or your crafting stations are full. Craft what you need to craft. Put everything up. And then you have to go out and gather more resources. Now I'm playing on single player, so I don't really have any competition for any resources, but there's still issues with single player and resource respawning, where periodically you have to switch it to multiplayer to get everything to respawn, which is not ideal. And now that the base is coming along, I didn't stop recording. I just focused on building and got it done. So on day 15 here, I finally went out. And this is what I get for going outside. Trudons. They're the worst neighbors. This is what they do to you. They just knock you out. Now I'm on hardcore, and I was really lucky here that there was nothing else here to attack me. This was also day 15. This was the day that I decided to redo the stats, so those guys were higher than anything else. I did Dino Wipe, and I started out with fresh tames. I got rid of all of my tames and started out completely new. So the first ones I always go for is either a parasaur or an iguanodon, or if I'm leveling fast enough, a pteranodon, because you can take to the skies pretty quickly. But I like having a parasaur as my starter tame, because they have decent speed, they have excellent stamina, they can run forever. Same with an iguanodon. They have good health and good carry weight, and the parasaur actually has some pretty good damage output with its little headbutt and their honk ability that clears out aggressive creatures in front of them. While it has a long cooldown, it can clear a path. And then once we've got our berry harvester and we can start doing tranquilizers, we can start working on, all the rest of our tames. And I'm pretty picky about the level that I'll go for. I like having a higher level I like to try to make it worth my while. I won't go for anything less than level 100 on regular settings, unless it's just a companion or cosmetic creature like a monkey or Shinehorn or something. Anything that I have utility for, I like to keep at a higher level. Higher base level means better stats. Better stats means better utility. So when day 16 hit, I had a bit of a tragedy where I logged in to falling through the map. Every day when I log out for the day and I close the recording down and start doing editing, I make sure to put all of my items in storage and go to bed naked. I will always log out on attached to a chair or attached to a bed, because that is supposed to prevent you from falling through the map on map load. The problem that I had was we get periodic power blips, and my universal power supply, my battery backup, is not sufficient to prevent my computer from blipping. It'll keep my monitors on, and strangely my TV will keep on, but the computer, my tower, goes out, so I need to get a stronger one. But anyway, my game logged out while I was not attached to one of those pieces of furniture. So naturally, I fell through. I was getting ready to close up for the day, though, so I'd already put all my stuff away. But it's pretty easy to recover from that. So hardcore means I start from level 1 on the beach if I die. And we're calling that first one a mulligan, even though it's a death and my character had to start over. It's not really a death. I'm not putting it toward the death count, and I decided to put up a death counter to just say, here's where we are with me dying. Dying on hardcore doesn't mean that I'm going to stop the playthrough. It just means I'm starting over, and I'm going to continue to see how I do. But I don't really consider falling through the map to be valid. So it's a mulligan. But what I ended up doing was going on a bit of a note run around the southwestern edge of the map. And there's about 12 or 15 notes or dossiers that you can get that I'll give you an experience boost. And if you also get them while mounted, your tame that you're writing also gets the experience boost and the overall experience gain. So it can be really helpful also for powering up like a flyer, like your Pteranodon or your Argy. And I got to about 65 for that little corner of the map, from 1 to 65, and it took about 10 minutes to get enough of them. And then I just went right back to it, going around, searching for tames, knocking them out, giving them their wonderful little snacks and tidbits of food so that we can tame them up with high efficiency. I don't really have the production for kibble right now because I don't have a lot of egg production. I also don't have a way to collect them automatically because I'm not using any mods. So kibble might be not happening, but we'll see. And nothing on day 17 happened at all. So this is it for day 17. You get HLNA watching me nap. She's just watching me sleep. I literally went around the entire map and found no good tames. Killed a bunch of low level. Didn't find anything that was of an appropriate level for me to want to tame. I did at the end of the day, though, build a generator and finally set up electricity. So I can have a couple lights on the inside and not have to worry about burning wood. And so I can get some fridges up for food storage and air cons for some egg hatching when I get into that. Now the creatures I'm going to go for my boss killers, I'm going to have different ones for different purposes for the map. I'm going to use Carnos and Megatheriums for the Broodmother, because Carnos have a really good knockback effect. And bleed, though the bleed won't affect the boss, but it will easily take out the ads, and the Megatheriums will get frenzy from the spiders that spawn. So we're going to get good saddles for them. And for the ape, I'm probably going to go with Rexes for the ape, because the ape is not hard. Doesn't require any real skill other than placement. So I think I'll just get Rexes. I did luck out and get a sheep, and I had originally planned to take it home so I could tame it, because having a couple sheep tamed is an excellent source for wool and mutton. Fortunately, I remembered that I don't have the ability to make the sweet veggie cake yet, so I just decided to kill it and harvest it. But that gave me a lot of mutton that I can use for taming carnivores. And because I have the stack sizes adjusted in the INI files, the mutton is not going anywhere anytime soon. And day 18 was a really good day, especially after having started over after a death. Because I went around and killed alphas for experience, and I wanted to do it for experience, but more I wanted to do it for the item drops that you can get from it, for the tools and stuff, because it's time to upgrade. I'm almost at max level. I've got the good starter tames. I'm going to be working on getting my boss tames located and tamed and start breeding them. But I need upgraded tools and weapons. And outside of farming drops, the little supply drops and cave drops, the next best thing is alphas. And I'm going to try to get all of the notes so that I can get the big bonus levels. Not just from the experience from getting the notes, but when you get all of them, you get plus 10 levels. And also alpha hunting with the chibi, so I can get the 5 bonus levels, so that I can be, what would it be on the island, 120? Before Ascension? Yeah, 120. And then after you ascend, after you get Overseer, you get an additional 15 levels. So that's 135. And doing that, then I would just take the same character over to Scorched Earth, but I would take them with nothing. Because I find if I travel with items or tames from map to map, I have less fun. I'm okay going to the new map with the high level character that's naked, because levels are easy and experience is a non-issue. It's inconsequential. The experience doesn't matter because you can gain it so quick no matter what. This is just on 1 times experience, by the way. But I think I'll just continue going through the maps just to see how I do. If I succeed on the island and beat it, Then I will go to Scorched and then to Aberration, etc., etc. Just to see how I do. Now on those, the same rules will apply. If I die, start over, level 1. But start over level 1 on the new map, on the next map, which means that I don't get any of those bonuses that I got from getting notes or the chibi or Ascension. I found a good level Allosaur with great colors. Normally Allosaur are so ugly. So I decided to keep it. And then working on my appliances, I had to do it. I had to commit war crimes against penguins. There's no way around it. I'm sorry. There's nothing that could be done. I needed the polymer. If only they were mantis on this map. And then the last day, at least on this collection of videos, or days. Day 20, same thing, going out, trying to find the levels that I wanted. This one, I did find a level 150 Carno. I had to fight off a Yudi, 3 Carnos, an Alpha Carno, and a Sarco to get this guy alone. So, it was well earned. The stats aren't great though. I always love when 150s have the highest stat be food. Like, thanks. That's great. So here we are, day 20, the end of the day. I've got the base up and I've got the brigade started. And I want to thank you for watching for this hardcore playthrough. I really do appreciate your support, and we'll catch up on the following days. Bye.